at a time when retailers and hospitality are opening and working hard to regain lost ground, and never has our support local message been more significant. Local businesses badly need to re-engage their customer base. They have to restore purchasing habits that we suspended over such a long time, and loyalty that may have drifted to other channels. I'm your host, Sven, of the Small Firms Association, and the expert speakers joining me today are Duncan Graham, who's Managing Director of Retail Excellence Ireland, Claire Cogan, a consumer behavior expert and founder of very apt Behaviourwise, and Cormac Quinn, founder and CEO of Loyalbee, a seamless and intuitive loyalty scheme that small businesses can tailor to their business. Before we get started, just a few items of housekeeping. We are recording this webinar and we will upload the recording on championgreen.ie in the coming days. You can ask questions using the chat box, and we will do our very best to answer them during the course of our webinar. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Kevin and the Champion Green webinar team for facilitating our session today. So let's get to it. Let's get stuck in. What is loyalty? According to Mr. Google, it is a strong feeling of support or allegiance. So how has this feeling of support or allegiance changed over the past year? And essentially, what can we do to rebuild, retain, or strengthen our loyal customer base? So let me bring in Duncan Graham first. Duncan, back to basics from your own and retail excellence perspective, how would you answer these questions about rebuilding or strengthening customer loyalty?
Morning, Sven. Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I think we have gone through enormous change, as everybody knows, over the last, 15, 16 months now at this stage. And, you know, it almost feels as though we've been trading in various different ways. So, you know, if you go back 18 months, we were trading predominantly bricks and mortar stores, a little bit online. We then shifted dramatically last year when periods of lockdown, where we had everybody trading online and nobody trading in some of the non-essential stores, they were shut. And now we're coming into almost this complex phase where we've now got stores open in the traditional way, and we've got online open, and we're doing things on social media. So the consumer now, I think, has got enormous amount of choice, choice like they've never had before, yeah? And it almost feels as though over the last 18 months or so, we have created this loyalty, we have created this, there's been this feel-good factor towards local businesses, hasn't there, and towards local retailers and local towns. And part of that has been what Champion Green has done, you know, with the Green Friday and the launch last year and all of those sort of things. But also it's been how consumers and customers have started to focus in on, I need to support local, because they've seen the stores closing down. They've seen, you know, the people struggling, and they have shifted and wanted to support those people. So, but I think we're in a place now where the slate is clean, you know, where we're starting again with a different way of working. And so, you know, loyalty is up for grabs, yeah, with a lot of businesses across the country. And the way I guess I look at this is that, you know, we need to keep it simple for the consumers. We need to keep it simple for the customer. We need to make sure that we're being consistent with some clear messages back to customers about what we do. And then we need to make sure that those messages are consistent across all the various channels that we work in. So, you know, if you're brilliant, or if your emphasis is on, let's say, price or, you know, sustainability or something like that, then make sure you're promoting that message both in your store, online, in social media, that the customer actually gets it, yeah? And the customer then comes in to your business and sees that, whether they go online or in the store or through social media. So I think the future is about consistency of message, and keeping it simple, but it's also about the opportunity to delight people, you know? So it's those opportunities during the course of that consistent message to come in and just put those elements of delight, you know, just to go that extra mile with consumers, yeah? And I think that's what the future is about, consistency of message across all the channels, and the opportunities just to delight at these various points. Yeah, that's what I think is going to be the way that things will shape up in the future, and that's where I think you'll be able to gain loyalty for you know, there will be that loyalty that consumers will give to retailers in the future.
So on the one hand, obviously the positive message and what we've come out of from the lockdown and this warm and fuzzy feeling towards shopping local. On the other hand, you say clean slate, we're starting afresh, and the way to stand out is to be consistent, and this consistency will then help you with customer loyalty and customer engagement.
And Sven, keeping it simple, because the danger here is that, you know, because we've got these various different channels now, that it can get very complex. So I think keeping something simple, so the customer really understands what you do and what you're about. You know, whether, as I say, whether that's a price message or a sustainability message, or even a, you know, I'm a local butcher message, for example. You know, and that I support local, I don't know, local farmers in my local area or something, that type of thing, that type of consistent messaging is what's right. The danger with this, I think, for retailers and other businesses over the next, you know, few months and years will be if those messages start getting complex in some way and the customer can't understand them. So we need to be consistent, but we also need to be simple.
Obviously, consistency is important with customer service in general, but things can go wrong, and we all can make mistakes either with the message or indeed with some of our products or with our customer service. Do we lose that business, or what can we do if and when we mess up and things go wrong?
Yeah, and I suppose I'm a bit of a traditionalist when it comes to service. And I certainly believe that when something goes wrong, so first off, it's naive to think that things won't go wrong, because they will go wrong. Yeah, every retail business, every hospitality business will make a mistake at some point. Yeah, it's about looking at those mistakes and those things that do go wrong as a gift. Yeah, and I think if you look at them as a gift and go, okay, I've now got an opportunity to put this right. Yeah. So I was always taught the messages of, you know, mess up, fess up, and dress up. Yeah. So if you mess up, fess up, admit to your mistake first and foremost. You know, admit to the fact that you are human. It's a human business, and you will get it wrong occasionally. So fess up to it, and then the final bit, dress up. So go the extra mile in putting it right. Yeah. So you know, my experience of all of this, I remember when I was in Brown Thomas many years ago now, running Brown Thomas, we'd launched a wedding list service, and wedding list service were complex. You know, you had to be you know, putting stuff by that was going to be picked by that was selected by the bride and groom, that then would be picked up by the bride's family or something. And inevitably, there were times when we got it wrong. You know, the question was, what did you do about it? What did we offer the bride, usually, in some way of compensation when you did get it wrong? And it was always those bits of, you know, if you went the extra mile, if you did something they didn't expect you to do, yeah, that's when you actually got them back in, and when you got them as you know, when they were really loyal to you, ultimately. So I think those messages of, you know, mess up, absolutely, you always will. Mess up, fess up, and dress up are the three things that I would say, and they apply equally as much now as they did, you know, 15, 20 years ago.
What is it that, in your experience, customers or shoppers want at the moment? Is it value? Is it quality? Is it to be rewarded for each purchase, or is it all of the above in your experience?
I think it's all of the above, if I'm honest. You know, I suppose that there was certainly some research that was being done last year that suggested that people would pay extra with local retailers, you know, that they would be prepared to put something back. So it really wasn't necessarily always about value, but I think it depends. You know, it's how competitive that area is. It's what area or sector of retail you happen to be shopping in, you know, at the time. So I think it is across all of those things, Sven, if I'm honest. But, you know, in terms of rewards, I mean, we were just having a conversation, I know, offline there, in terms of, you know, reward schemes and loyalty schemes. And I know you're advising me over the fact that every time you see me, I've got an insomnia. I'm not actually sponsored by insomnia, by the way, but I have got my coffee cup in front of me. And, you know, one of the reasons why I go to insomnia most mornings to get my coffee is because I can scan my phone, you know, and I'm getting my points. And on the back of those points, you know, just occasionally, and I don't really know when it happens, but just occasionally they'll say to me, you know, you've got a free coffee. Do you want to take it now? Yeah. And I kind of just keep going back as a result of that. And that does make me loyal to that particular insomnia coffee shop, you know. And yet there are certain things within that if somebody else round the corner was offering me a similar sort of thing, but the coffee was a bit better, I'd probably go to the other place. So, you know, so I think it really does just depend. But there's no doubt that certain loyalty schemes in certain areas, like your local coffee shop, you know, do attract you in and do keep you loyal to that place. Plus the fact it's also the other bit is when I walk into that coffee shop now, you know, I kind of don't even need to ask them. I need to tell them what I want, and it's kind of almost a negative to have to be in a position where I say it's 2 cappuccinos. You know, it's now almost expected that they know what my order is and it's waiting there for me because I'm in there so often, and that kind of gives you that feel of I belong here. You know, it is that feeling of belonging, I think.
So not to use the name insomnia too much, because as you said, neither you or we are sponsored by insomnia, but insomnia now is a larger operation now at this stage. Is a chain, and they've been successfully expanding over the last years, and they're using this as you say, app-based, phone-based loyalty scheme, and obviously it's about data. And are these schemes the way to go, or are they only for bigger businesses? Would you recommend the introduction of such a scheme for smaller places as well? Yeah,
look, I think it's difficult, and probably other people, you know, Claire or Cormac could answer this and probably give me their view, but you know, I think it works. It certainly works at a local level, but I also think good old-fashioned customer service and knowing, you know, employing people who are people, if you know what I mean. So the employees and what you say, what your brand says about you and your local community. And one of the things, for example, that surprises me no end at the moment is when you walk down our streets, and let's face it, all our streets have really just opened up again. You know, they've opened up at the start of the summer. And I'm actually quite surprised about some of the generic messaging that our stores are giving out at the moment. You know, it's around, okay, it's spring, it's summer, it's, you know, it's get your summer wardrobe or whatever. But we're really not saying a lot. And we're seeing it in some shops. I think Penny's were doing it and one or two others. We're seeing it in some shops where they're saying, we missed you, welcome back. Yeah, but we're not seeing it everywhere. And yet there is this feeling of, you know, I've missed the shops, you know, we've all missed the shops and the shops have missed us. And let's just say that to customers. Let's just say, actually, you know what, we've missed you. It's been tough. You know, we're back. You know, let's appeal to the heartstrings a bit more, you know. And there's other things that are going on which I can't quite understand at the moment. I went into a supermarket or a main big food store at the weekend, right? And there's a guy, it's a local one to me, and there's a guy on the door who was actually doing the meeting and greeting role, yeah? And as I walked into that store, I met him, and I know him because he's a friend of my son's, right? And I said to him, hi, how are you? And he said, I'm fine. He said, I'm looking a few minutes before I finish. I said, how long have you been doing this? He said, 2 hours I've been standing here. I said, well, what are you doing? I'm meeting and greeting. He said, but I don't know what you're doing, and yet you've been standing here for the last 2 hours doing it, you know? So it was all a bit odd. And I think that's, again, where retailers can get the messages either right or wrong.
So that's very interesting observation. So talking about observations, human behavior, and let me bring in Claire. Claire, I think you have a bit of an echo there. If you have a headset that you can use, that'd be really helpful. So your business is about understanding us, what drives human behavior, and how to change it to your advantage. That sounds very manipulative, Claire. Can you just tell us a bit more about your business and what you do?
Yes, certainly. Can you hear me okay now?
Perfectly now, yeah.
Great. So I am founder of a business called Behaviourwise, and it's really all about understanding what it is that drives human behavior and how we can change that. So it's a positive thing because often we find people are motivated to do certain things. So for example, support local. There's a lot of motivation out there right now to support local. But sometimes, even though people are motivated to do that, at the moment when it counts, they may forget, they may be distracted, other things might influence. So we're all about finding ways to essentially encourage people to do what they would probably want to do anyway.
And tell me, I've read somewhere that it takes 4 weeks to lose a bad habit and to adapt better habits. Is that your findings? Well, that in order to change behavior, it takes a certain amount of time. It takes a certain amount of repetition for this new behavior then to really become the new reality, the new norm.
It does indeed, yes, especially if we talk about habits. So there's research out there that will say that it takes anything from 4 to 6 weeks to really create a habit so it becomes a norm for you. And I'm actually in the middle of doing that myself. I'm trying to exercise for an hour a day, and I'm on week 4. So we're just tipping into habit territory now.
Talk about research. I know that you've done some research recently around the idea of community spirit and how this idea of community spirit has an important role to play in boosting support for local businesses and brands. What are your findings there?
Yes, so this research reveals that there's a very strong underlying association in people's minds between community spirit and supporting local independent businesses. This is based on research that Behaviourwise did with empathy research, and we looked at the nature of community spirit across Ireland and especially how it affects people's behaviour. So what we actually did was we asked people if they could remember examples of community spirit in their local area and to describe those examples to us. And then we asked how those memories made them feel, and we then asked how they intended behaving over the coming weeks. And we found firstly that there's a really strong positive effect on people's emotions. Just simply the act of recalling these things makes people feel proud, happy, inspired. So it puts people into a positive frame of mind. And then we also found that people were significantly more likely to say that they would shop in local independent businesses over the coming weeks. So we had 62% of people tell us, yes, very, very likely that they would do that, compared to 52% in a control group. So that's a 10% difference, which is pretty significant. And we found a similar effect if we asked about buying local food and drink, or visiting a farmer's market, or volunteering for a local cause, or attending a local event. So in a nutshell, reminding or remembering positive examples of community spirit, it has 3 effects really. It puts people in a positive frame of mind. It encourages them to actively get involved in the local community in a number of ways. And then it does make it more likely that they will support local brands and businesses too.
Is there any practical advice that you can give how to translate this positive feeling, this people embracing the idea of community spirit into hard cash? How can someone tap into this community spirit and make it work for them commercially? Is there any advice you can give?
Yes, absolutely. And I do think it's a really important point, as Duncan said earlier, that as the country opens up, people do have more choice, they do have more options. And the real acid test is whether they will follow through on this motivation to support local over the coming weeks. So there are ways that we can nudge people effectively just to get them over the line. And one way is to remind people how much part of the local community your business is. And there are a number of ways you can do this: sharing stories of community spirit, displaying images or photographs or paintings of the community, tapping into community colors or stories or even turns of phrase. All of these things bring the community aspect to life in a very real way. And I would also say that if businesses support other local businesses or buy from local suppliers or support local charities, it's really worth letting people know, because they may not know that. And it will demonstrate how intertwined all of these local businesses are in the community. I suppose the key point is letting people know these businesses are part of their community, and that will nudge them to support local businesses over the coming weeks.
This webinar is about loyalty, also looking at loyalty schemes, and Champion Green has been looking at maybe introducing a local loyalty scheme through our platform. Do you think this would get support among local consumers, or is this contradicting the message of warm and cozy? As soon as you introduce technology, there's a mismatch, or do you think this could work?
Oh, I think it definitely could work. So our research showed that 7 out of 10 people said that they would be very likely to join a local loyalty scheme if there was one available to them. And that actually increased to 8 out of 10 when we asked them to think about community spirit. So actually positioning joining a local loyalty scheme as a way to demonstrate community spirit, if you like, is likely to attract more support. But people definitely are supportive of the idea. They need a mechanism. They need to be able to act on that. But if there is an option there for them, research is saying, yes, definitely, there's a very high level of support out there for that.
Let me bring in Cormac at this stage, because Cormac has all the know-how, the technology. He has developed the platform LoyalBee. This platform makes it easier for shoppers to earn rewards simply by paying with their bank card. How does it work for the retailer, Cormac?
Yeah, thanks, Sven. So it's very, very simple actually for businesses to set up and run LoyalBee. They can actually just simply sign up using our online form, where they can then decide what loyalty scheme they want to create, and that can take less than 10 minutes. And then we can get them live within the app within less than a day, and get them set up and posted out a marketing toolkit so that they can then advertise to their customers with social media assets and in-store assets as well. And this is, you know, as you pointed out there, we use a new bank linking technology that makes it so simple and straightforward. That means that we don't require any point of sale integrations whatsoever or any equipment in store whatsoever. Customers simply download the app, link their bank card, pay, and then they can earn their points and rewards. So it's frictionless. For the businesses then, you know, we give them access to a dashboard that lets them manage the scheme, but it has been designed with, you know, time per business owners in mind. You know, yes, you can log in and you can, you know, create a campaign to re-engage with lapsed customers, but you don't actually need to. You know, it can just run completely behind the scenes, sending you, you know, a weekly email of what's been happening, how, you know, the statistics and how often people have been using it.
And tell me, do the retailers and coffee shop owners get access also then to your backend, so to speak? Do they get the data analytics? Can they then see what products and services are being asked for most? Is there such functionality on your platform?
So we don't, as we don't tie in with point of sale, we don't know SKU items. We don't know exactly what's bought. We can see, you know, how much people are spending, how often they're frequenting, and yes, we of course, you know, report that data among other customer insights like demographics to businesses. And I'll give you an example of where that's been useful. We had a business who was able to see their demographics and actually decided to create a new menu based on, you know, the demographics makeup of their actual customers. So that kind of fed into then, you know, something that they can actually do for the customers. And before that, they really had no idea. they'd sort of, they knew who maybe liked them on Facebook and who followed them on Instagram, but that was it. They didn't know who their actual customers are. So implementing a digital scheme with data and insights enabled them to do this.
And tell me, in your experience, if a retailer or hospitality business signs up to a loyalty scheme, does this scheme then create and support better customer relationships?
Absolutely. I think, for a number of reasons. I mean, firstly, a seamless scheme like this can help just improve the customer experience and the journey in general. Businesses, of course, want to offer a great service and a great product, and they spend a lot of time and effort making sure that they do. But that can potentially be let down by customers having to fumble in their wallets for a dog-eared card, or using broken apps to try and collect the rewards. And you can't get any more seamless and frictionless than just paying by your bank card, walking away and getting a notification you've earned some points automatically. And then, secondly, our platform, it really helps businesses understand who their customers are, tying in with that data, and lets them engage with them, through that dashboard, and sending out, maybe push notifications or, automated campaigns to try and say, for example, win customers back. And, I'll give you another example of how that was used. We had a client who decided to give his top 10 customers a free small gift, just to say thank you. And that ties in with the whole surprising and delighting customers. They were not expecting it at all, and yeah, it was an unexpected surprise, which was nice.
I have a question here from one of our attendees. Ellie Berry asked the question: is the loyalty scheme applicable for a small online business as well? So can you use this as an online reward scheme, or is it only for a bricks and mortar store?
No, it's both online and offline. The technology works either way. As a reward, you could set up a coupon code, so a customer could get maybe a discount or a free item, and they just enter that code during checkout. So it's very simple, very straightforward. Or you could have a cashback type scheme where you're constantly rewarding each purchase. So
we know that Duncan is a big fan of Insomnia, and he gets every 8th or 10th cup of coffee for free. What does the ideal scheme or reward look like, and how do you make it work for bigger ticket items?
Yeah, well, it needs to be tailored to the business, to suit the business and the customers' needs. It's not one size fits all, and that's why we've designed our platform to give SMEs and businesses the ability to create bespoke schemes. It could be, spend €4 and get a free coffee, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a cashback. It could be get 2% back in all spend, and then during a promotional, maybe a slow period, get a boosted rate, say 5% or something like that. So it should work for both the business and the customer. It could also be used to help, of course, loyalty schemes are used to help drive profits and sales. And it can be used, for example, to increase average basket sizes and frequency of visits. So you could, for example, put out an offer to reward customers for spending a minimum of €50, and try and incentivize higher average basket sizes. And then, after they've maybe earned a reward for doing that, do they continue to spend that higher amount? Has the lifetime value of that customer increased? And did the ROI in that campaign work out? And that's the kind of things that we can, businesses can do with our platform, and we can obviously report then the effectiveness of these campaigns.
There's a few more questions coming in. One links into what Duncan said before we went online with our webinar. It was the observation, and obviously everybody was excited to reopen. Retail was buzzing in the first week, and looking at what's happening this week, seems to be footfall seems to be slowing down a tiny bit. Obviously, we're missing the footfall coming from the office community, and we're missing the hospitality footfall, because we need this all side by side. Duncan, what needs to happen now to keep this momentum? Is it all eyes on government, or is there something that retailers can do now themselves? And you're on mute.
Yeah, good point, Sven. Thank you. Listen, I think it's difficult, isn't it? You know, because we're still trading through a really tough time. Let's not forget, we have normally, particularly our cities and towns, tourist towns across the country, are now starting to see an influx of foreign tourists. You know, this time last year was a novel experience for us all. You know, but we were working through it. This year, we're starting to think around, well, you know, we've opened up and therefore where are all the crowds? And certainly last week, there were plenty of people, there's plenty of pent up demand. And I think the reality of what we're seeing is still those people that are coming into shops are coming in and spending because there is that pent up demand. But, you know, hospitality being shut still means that people aren't dwelling in our towns the way they were. They're not going for a coffee, they're not having lunch. They are going in on a mission and they are leaving. Yeah, we're not seeing the influx of Americans and European tourists and UK tourists like we were doing. And as you say, we've not got people working in city centres in office space. So it's a very different situation. And I think also the pattern is that certainly our towns and city centres are going to see probably more business being done at the weekends perhaps than they have done during the week. And of course, you know, the weather's also not been very good, has it? So all of those things are forced against us. Yeah. I do think, though, things will start to take on a new level. I think there's confidence now. I think we saw that last week and the week before, if you think about appointment shopping. So I think there's a bit of confidence there and a bit of, and I do think that some of the things that we've been talking about this morning are going to help. You know, I think that loyalty, that service, that reward schemes, whatever it may be, is going to help bring customers back in. But let's not forget, customers walking in and out of shops at the moment, many of them, particularly the ones that haven't been vaccinated yet, are still cautious. They're still a bit worried. You know, they still don't particularly want to be in crowds of shoppers. So, you know, whereas conversely, let's call it the over 70s, the over 65s are bouncing around like teenagers at the moment in and out of shops, because, you know, they're double vaccinated, and don't they deserve to be? You know, it's great. So it's a real mixed situation that we've got. And I think it's going to have to find a level over the next few weeks. And I think the concern I would have is probably not what's going to go on during this summer, but it's going to be what September and October look like. And, you know, what's that going to be like for retail? And certainly the government has its part to play in keeping those ongoing financial supports in place to the end of the year.
You still stick to your notion of the roaring 20s once we are all over this and once come 2022, you still believe that with all the pent-up demand, with all of the customer loyalty, everybody using Cormac's Loyal Bee scheme, will there be a next roaring 20s? Yeah,
look, I think yes, I hope so, you know, but at the end of the last roaring 20s, there was a world war, wasn't there? I'm not sure I really want to go there, but, you know, yes, I think there is going to be a feel good. I think the interesting thing is going to be what happens in Q4 this year. You know, what's Christmas going to be looking like? You know, that November, December period. And I think that will be a real, you know, benchmark of what the next few years are going to be. You know, at the end of the day, we're going to have to pay for this. We're going to have to pay for some of this borrowing and these supports that have been in place. So, you know, that, I mean, you know, you can hear the messages now coming back from government about, you know, increased taxation and all of that sort of thing. So it is, we are facing into some financially difficult times paying for all of this stuff. But equally, I do think that, that there will be a real move back towards the local community. You know, this feel-good factor, you always sense it when you go out now in local places. You feel this sense, and I think that's going to be doubled up when we get hospitality opened, and we see people, you know, out on the streets having their lunch, and you know, if we get some decent weather in the summer, we're going to be like Spain, aren't we? You know, it's going to feel like that around some of our towns and cities, and that will give people a boost, I think.
Claire, bringing you in nearly for your famous last words. So not thinking too far ahead and not thinking about new measures that need to be introduced in order to pay for all of the supports, but looking a bit more short term. What can small business owners do now to tap into this feel-good factor? What practically should they be doing in the next 4 to 6 weeks to help them boost their business and to get the word out? And I think you're on mute as well, Claire, so I'm just going to get the t-shirts printed.
Sorry about that. I think drawing on what we've been discussing, I think the key point is to really engage with your loyal customers, show them that you appreciate their loyalty, make them feel part of your journey, and then they will have a vested interest in supporting you on an ongoing basis. And there are practical things you can do. So when I talked about sharing stories of community spirit, you can basically, you could have a little competition and ask people to submit examples of community spirit that they've seen, or send in photographs, or basically participate and take part in that story at community level. And then you could in turn display and showcase those things in your own business, which will serve as a reminder that we're all in this together, because there's no doubt about it that at a community level, the communities that manage to mutually support each other are the ones that will bounce back and will thrive, and that'll carry them right through even into, you know, Q4, as Duncan was saying, which might be challenging. So there's lots of potential, and there's lots of opportunity to engage and make them feel part of your journey.
Last question for you, Cormac. I'm quite sure that the participants are very interested now in your platform. What can they do if they want to jump on board? How can they find out more about Loyalbee?
I'm on mute. Still not used to Zoom after all this time. Yeah, they can simply visit our website. So it's loyalbee.io. And there is some more information around Champion Green if you visit loyalbee.io/champion-green. And there is a promotional code, a Visa supported discount code that businesses can avail of for the next 3 months.
Excellent. Well, thank you all very much. Thank you, Duncan, Claire, and Cormac. This is all that we have time for on this month's Champion Green webinar on customer loyalty. As I said, the recording will be available on the championgreen.ie website pretty soon, and we will see you again next month for some more practical business advice. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay loyal, and stay in touch with Champion Green. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.